Stephen from Gadsden, Alabama said, did we buy back our Kalen DeBoer stock too soon? Maybe we should have just waited after the FSU loss. What does this even mean? Buy back the stock too soon. So am I to take that to mean you sold your stock after FSU? So you sold low, then you bought back, and now you're questioning whether you should have bought back, which insinuates something terrible has happened. Well, yes, they lost a football game last Saturday. So I think sometimes in college football, it is popular to take the sentiment of the extreme fringe of a fan base and amplify it as the mainstream of the fan base. So I don't think the mainstream of the Alabama fan base is yelling anything like this. However, I don't know that to be sure. So let me just speak my piece on this. Let me ask the question there. Let me ask the guy who just asked the question there, our friends in Gadsden. What do you think Alabama is? Let's just humor me for a second. If you're out there and you got doubts about Kalen DeBoer, what do you think Alabama is? First question. Second question, what do you expect from Kalen DeBoer? And then the third question, if you're really unhappy with him right now, who is the standard? Who is it that you want him emulating? Don't say Nick Saban. Nick Saban's not an active head coach anymore. And by the way, in the latter portion of the Saban tenure, I know it gets romanticized and it gets whitewashed. There were a ton of one-possession games. There were losses. There were penalties all over the place. Offensive line play had regressed. You had some of the same issues. So don't be saying Nick Saban either. Nick Saban at his pinnacle is never going to happen again in the history of the sport or the future of the sport because the landscape's changed. So out of the available candidates, and this is theoretically if you're unhappy with Kalen DeBoer, out of the available candidates, who's the standard? Pick him out. I don't care. Take your time. List the best in the game. Is it Ryan Day? Is it the guy who has been handled by his rival 4 consecutive years and lost 2 regular season games last year, only to finally find his way to a national championship for the first time? Is that him? Is that the standard? You tell me. Is it Kirby Smart? The guy who had you walk in and beat him in his home building this year. Trailed Auburn at the half. Bunch of one-possession wins. Now, they're peaking at the right time, but are you telling me that's the standard? Like, pick the guy. I don't care who it is. Pick the guy. And I want you to illustrate for me the separation between whoever that is and what Kalen DeBoer's done in his career, but what he's done this year even. Who is it? There isn't that guy, is there? No, there's not. So here's my thought on this. The way I've chosen to look at Alabama this year. That FSU game was abysmal to start the season. You can't do anything about that. Imagine that Monday, if I sat you down, Bama just lost, what was it, Jesse, 31-17 or something like that. Imagine Bama, fresh off a 2-possession loss to Florida State. I sit you down that Monday, and I say, Bama fan from Gadsden, Alabama, you're going to go into the Iron Bowl with your entire playoff fate and SEC championship fate in your hands. Will you take that? You would have done cartwheels even though you've never done one in your life. You would have done all kinds of acrobatic maneuvers you never even thought possible with or without a trampoline. And the reason is because half of you thought your season was dead in the water. And for a little while, I wondered if you were right. So I view this as an excellent coaching job. They didn't have the team ready out of the gate. I think it surprised them as much as anyone else. But then they circled the wagons and they went on that stretch run as tough as any stretch any team has faced this year, won every game, and then dropped the Oklahoma game the other day. So we'll get back to the video 1 second. Do me one quick favor. Look down. Make sure you're subscribed. Most of you are. If you're not, please do so. It's the way we keep the channel free, we keep the videos coming, and we get to do college football year-round as God intended. All right, as promised, back to the video. This is a good team. This is not a complete team. At no point this year was this going to be a complete team. They're still very much in a state of flux with their roster. They're still very much in a state of transitioning this roster to what they want it to be. You think that offensive line personnel is really what they want? You think that tailback personnel is what they want and what eventually they'll have there? I don't. But I think they're doing the best with what they have right now. So my advice to you is be honest with yourself. If anyone's thinking along these lines, be honest with yourself. I would have said the same thing to Ohio State fans after the Michigan game last year. This is a really healthy exercise if you'll do it and be honest. Take a pen, not a pencil. Take a pen. And I want you to go buy a new notebook. And then I want you to use that pen, pretend that you have the power of an athletic director. And I want you to write down your thoughts on your coach. You got to constantly keep a log of it. After every week, I need you filling in that log at least once weekly. Whenever you feel like it's time to fire him, I want you to write down, I would have fired him today. Some of you would have written that after the FSU game about DeBoer. Not a ton of you. Some of you would have. That's the group I'm talking to right now. Just like Jim Harbaugh, post-2020, 2021, that time frame, most Michigan fans would have fired him if they had their choice. They would have fired him. Okay? Unbeknownst to them, they were going to give up a national championship. They were going to give up multiple wins against Ohio State. How they went about that, okay, you could litigate that on another show. But they would have given that up because they couldn't see around the corner. So with DeBoer or anyone else, like there's folks who would have written in their little log about Ryan Day, fire this bum, got to get him out of here. Now he goes on to win a national title, which you never would have reaped the benefit of had you had your way. And anyway, I want you to do this, and then I want you to let a few years go by. This is not an exercise that is done in 48 hours. And I want you to just go back. You're not allowed to erase anything. You're not allowed to tear any pages out of the notebook. And I want you to read how many different times you were sky high and rock bottom low on the coach in question. Could be Kalen DeBoer. It could be Shane Beamer. I mean, think about doing this with Beamer. My goodness. Think about doing it with Dabo. Point being, you have to move at the speed of honey, not the speed of water on this stuff. We haven't used this analogy in a while. Meemaw, one of the great Meemawisms in the history of judgment is she said, you got to judge your coaches at the speed of honey. Meemaw says, take 2 plates, okay, one in each hand. You put a drop of honey in the middle of one plate. You put a drop of water in the middle of the other plate. Turn both those plates sideways. The drop of water just falls right off. The drop of honey slowly starts to go south. Now, if you hold that plate there long enough, even the honey ends up on the ground, but it takes a while. And in the aggregate, the plate may just turn right side up. May even turn the other way. But if you're moving at the speed of water, you'll never know. And that's kind of the way that I think you have to judge this. But if I have not talked you off the ledge, and you're someone who is ready to sell your Kalen DeBoer stock, please let me know, because I'll take every bit of it. I've got room in my portfolio, so I'll take every bit of it.